All right. Well, welcome everyone to our 2024 Moms Agenda Bill Training for the Maintaining Our Obligation to Moms Who Served Act. I'm very excited to see many of you on live today. And if you're watching the recording, thank you so much for taking the time to learn about this bill. We can go on to the next slide. We are here today to discuss a bill that's being elevated to our Moms Agenda. So as a reminder for you all, our 2023 Moms Agenda bills are all still live for the 118th Congress. So this is the first one that we're elevating for 2024, but it's in addition to the bills from last year as well. And we can go to the next slide. So a couple of notes for you today, as per usual. So many of you have seen this many times. Some of you may be seeing this for the first time. So I'm going to drop links in the chat here. You're looking for several individuals today. If you don't already know who they are, you're looking for your House of Representatives member. So that will be one individual who is your congressperson. And that link is coming in the chat now. And if you're looking at the slides after the live presentation, that link is live on the slide. So go ahead and find out who your House of Representatives member is, and then you're going to want to look up the bill on congress.gov, that HR 7807, which is also a live link. And Ebony, if you don't mind clicking on that, we will walk you through how to find out if your House of Representatives member is already signed on. So you can click on that link there. And you'll see the name of the bill, the original sponsor there up top, and then down at the bottom, the tab over there to the right says co-sponsors. You can scroll down there and see that there are 3 co-sponsors listed in addition to the original co-sponsor. I'm sorry, there's 2 original co-sponsors and 2 additional sponsors listed there. And then we can go back and we'll do the same thing for our senators. The difference with your senators is that you're looking for 2 of them. So you have 2 senators for each state. So find out who your senators are, and then you'll want to find out if they are signed on to the Senate version of this bill. The bill being introduced in both the House and the Senate makes it bicameral. And that makes it much more feasible to pass when it's moving along in both chambers at the same time. So thank you for that visual, Ebony, on S3641, which is the Senate version of the Moms Who Served Act. And now I will turn it over to Ebony to introduce our speaker today. Thank you so much for being here with us, Jamie.
Hello, everyone. Nice to see you all. I'm here. I know that I'm not on camera because I am steering the slides, and I don't think you want my face and nose in the camera, but nice to see some familiar faces and some new faces. I heard that a cousin has joined us. So hi, Susan. Nice to meet you. We are super excited to have MMHLA join us, and Jamie. You all are in great hands with Jamie. She is going to give you all an overview and do some training on this bill. And she serves as the founder and director of policy and partnerships for MMHLA. That's a mouthful. So I am going to hand it over to Jamie.
Ebony, thank you so much. It's great to be here. And okay, I'm getting notices from these autopilots. I still am not in the AI world. So hello, AI people, and hello, real people that are joining us today. Great to see friends and excited to go through this very important piece of legislation. So there's me. We can click to the next slide. Okay, here is a little bit more about me. Oh my God, Susan, can you believe how big my girls are? The last time you see, they just keep getting bigger and bigger, right, moms? So I am a mom with lived experience, and I had my own lived experience with anxiety, OCD, and rage. And I'll just add, for what it's worth, those of us who have experienced these complications realize that, some can start earlier than others, and that it really is a spectrum disorder. It's not just postpartum depression. I founded the first advocacy day, thank you, Rhonda, in Massachusetts, with my legislators and our local community advocates up here in Massachusetts. Actually, next week is the 9th annual postpartum Depression Awareness Day at the Massachusetts State Capitol. And Heather, I'm very excited to hear that New Hampshire is going to have one in Concord. And then the Capitol Hill one, that was an effort that Joy and I put together and really was the catalyst to everything that we're working in this space now. Mom Congress, MMHLA, PSI, all of it. So you are part of a movement if it takes a village. And my focus has always been on policy, national policy. And so that's how we're here today to go through the Moms Act. We'll go to that next slide. All right, military and veterans. We all know a couple of facts about postpartum depression. At the high level, overarching, 1 in 5 mothers are impacted by mental health conditions. It's the most common complication of all pregnancy. It affects roughly 800,000 families annually. Mental health conditions are the leading cause of maternal deaths. That's very shocking. I am very disappointed in our healthcare systems to hear that we have the highest maternal mortality in the industrialized world. We see that women of color are highest impact. And on top of that, we see that mental health complications and substance use comorbidities are the leading cause. This is egregious and loss of life for no reason other than not being able to be treated, find adequate support, or honestly, just be real about what the issue is. I'd say 99% of these deaths are preventable. It costs about $14 billion a year, and that was as of 2019 in wages and going loss of work, et cetera, et cetera. Like that's just an incredible figure. I can't imagine what that would be right now. And that is just the untreated costs of postpartum. And that was a report that Dr. Karazivan had put together. And there are certain individuals who are at increased risk for experiencing maternal mental health conditions. And that's our spouses of serving. That population we know and we knew had high rates of incidences, and we see right here 2 to 3 times higher military mothers, active duty dependents, reservists, and retirees. 36% of individuals who screened, who literally, did test positive and put the real answers on the page. And I always say that because I think a lot of us have been able to trick that little test that we were given, if we were given it at all, at the doctor's office. And that's a very high rate of incidence of maternal mental health complications. And then when we take a look at our retired service members, which is not a part of this bill, but it is worth noting that the percentage, again, is extremely high. And we should not be seeing these figures, or if we are seeing these figures, let's do something about it. We'll go to that next slide. What did we do? We at Maternal Mental Health Leadership Alliance, Maternal Mental Health Leadership Alliance. I hope I said that, and you are right, Ebony, it's a mouthful, MMHLA. We sat down with respective organizations, individuals' lived experience, and said, including the GAO and the information that was released from the GAO on maternal mental health challenges in the military, and said, how can we support our serving members? How can we support those spouses whose partners are deployed? Let's start to scratch at the tip of the iceberg, chip away at that tip of the iceberg. Let's put together a pilot program with the goal of preventing MMH conditions. Let's start there. I'm going to actually also pull up the GAO report, and I don't know, Crystal, if you have that information. I'm just going to drop it in the chat, because this was fascinating to see. The GAO actually came out with a report on maternal mental health conditions and the prevalence of efforts to screen and treat. in May of 2022. So we're coming up on 2 years, and part of that history and that information was what helped get us to writing this legislation to make sure that we are taking care of this group. All right, we'll go to the next page. We've put together a fact sheet. Very easy breakdown. Who introduced it? As Crystal had mentioned, it's bipartisan, it's bicameral. When we work in this space of maternal mental health, the one thing we've always done is work in that manner of bipartisan, bicameral. Anyone who wants to, scare themselves during the end of the day and put on the evening news, you'll see how dysfunctional our current Congress is and how crazy Washington is. But there is one couple of issues that people find commonalities on, and this is one of them. So we were very thrilled to have these folks here identified, very diverse. Senator, a pretty moderate Republican from Nebraska, partner up with a very progressive Democrat. And the same goes with Chrissy Houlihan and Don Bacon. And Chrissy Houlihan in the House is actually a mom of 3, and she gave birth to her first while she was serving at Hanscom Air Force Base here in Bedford in Massachusetts. So this is a great, easy leave behind, something you can give to the offices that you're working with ahead of time. It's a great leave behind. Again, if you don't get this to them, just use these as your talking points. You can send it to the congressional offices as a follow-up. It identifies everything we just talked about here. Incidences, percentages, common complication, the fact that we need treatment. Here are the issues. What's the solution? The Moms Act. Co-sponsor the Moms Act. Here's something that you can do about it. It's a low dollar. We aren't looking for any offsets. We are looking to integrate already known evidence-based maternal mental health prevention programs. We are looking to increase awareness as well. So assuming this pilot goes through, there are already some birthing models through centering pregnancy that are in the military space. And this would be laid on. This would be part of that, part of the already running support for pregnant service members and their spouses. This would be layered on top of what's already there and what's already working. I do want to point out that we were very clear and very complicit about the need to establish an advisory committee within this pilot program so that we don't leave any rock unturned, so to speak. These programs would be available even overseas. For example, if someone is in Guam, if someone is in Alaska, so it wouldn't just be the contiguous 48, the mainland, so to speak, but it would also include the territories. And we want to make sure that we are capturing the voices and experiences of diverse groups, which were, when I say diverse groups, I mean racial equity, and who is participating in these programs as well as as well as what branches of the government as well. And so this advisory board would help to identify those populations, give them a voice, and make sure that we are centering the voices of those who need the most support. As we know, it is the most vulnerable are our pregnant service members and their families, and making sure that they are a part of representing who needs these supports and reducing stigma. We all, at least I, have faced the challenges of being afraid to talk about it due to stigma. I think a lot of us that come to this with lived experience feel that hesitation to talk about it, as it makes, for whatever reasons in our minds, us feel like we're bad parents, even though we aren't. In the military, there seems to be a lot more stigmatization around mental health, and that is because a lot of clearances are connected to mental health, and folks are hesitant to speak about this. Our executive director, Adrian Griffin, is very clear about how this was such a challenge for her, as she had been a military service officer for 7 years and was very hesitant to seek mental health support after the birth of her son, John, as she knew she was going to lose her security clearance. Those challenges have changed a bit, but it is still a challenge today. And so I will hand it over to Mom Congress from here, and then if we have Q&A, let's go for it. And I'm very thrilled to be here. Thank you so much for the opportunity. You guys are going to have a great lobby day. It's always so much fun.
Thanks so much for being here, Jamie, and thank you for sharing about your lived experience. We know how valuable that is, and we appreciate you turning around and making it better for those that come behind you. So thank you very, very much. And we're so glad that you're here, and so glad to see your girls. And so I just want to ask 2 points of clarity from me, and then I'll open it up to the floor. You all welcome to ask questions in chat too. So just to make sure we understand, so the bill is going to establish a 5-year pilot program, and part of the bill is actually building that pilot program itself, right? Like seeking out the information in order to build the pilot program, or is there one already written?
There's actually already a pilot program with centering pregnancy that could be brought in. So it's an existing model of care, evidence-based care, that could be layered on top of the already like generalized maternity care services that are at the military training facilities or their hospitals.
Fantastic. And that's the model where people come together through it as a group, correct?
That's
that
correct.
We can share more information about centering pregnancy as a model. Thank you so much. And then the other question is that we want to make sure and would love to hear more about your how you made sure the bill was equitable, and your equity tool that you all use at MMHLA. And then Heather also has asked our third question, which is there a fiscal note? So those 2 follow-ups we'll leave you with. And yes, so if you could start with the equity piece, please.
Absolutely. And oh geez, if I can I screen share?
Yes, I think, yep, there. Let's make sure that you are. That should do it.
All right, let me make sure. I am a co-host. Yay. Okay, hold on. One participant can share at a time. I don't know what that means.
Yes, I think if you go ahead and hit share, Ebony, stop.
Oh.
So
there it is. All right, I got it. Thank you. Sorry, friends. There we go. Okay. Something very important to us at MMHLA, and I know at Mom Congress as well, is racial equity. And so what we did was put together a framework to assess racial equity in policy development. So we had gathered a board of advisors from indigenous populations to the LGBTQA+, Hispanic population, African-American population. We put together a board of advisors to say, how can we, as we move forward, gather what we should be looking at from a policy framework so that it's not just helping one group of people, but it's helping multiple groups. And I'll always remember Dr. Alma Adams, Congresswoman from Georgia, when it came to talking about the omnibus, which we see becomes such a hot potato because it's primarily Democrat in this crazy Congress. She said, when we lift up the health and wellness of Black women, we are lifting up the health and wellness of all women, okay? So we need to think about how are we doing that with our policies? And this should be available on the website as well. And we want to make sure that we are using our framework, which I can go through that as well. We actually have a framework, and we are wanting to eliminate racial disparities in health and support programs that will be accessible to everybody. And that really is part of the model of community care. And that's really where we want to see these policies, whether it be the state grants for telepsychiatry to implementing a maternal mental health component into the on-site pregnancy support models with group care. Let's get it to the people who are using it and need that support. So identifying the policy, we identified the need. We identified and centered the population. We designed the policy around how do we get racial equity information in this, right? So we're part of that I identified when we were talking about the advisory panel, making sure we have those individuals who are in the system being represented at the table in the advisory board. I will also caveat by saying when we are trying to design policy that's addressing structural inequities and racial bias, part of what we hit up against is the bipartisan nature, and I'll speak one party versus another, in not wanting to use words such as racism, Black women. There is pushback in different representatives' offices. So we are always looking at, as I stated before, chipping at the top of the iceberg to get the information that we need, because data doesn't lie, right? So that GAO report that I even dropped in the link shows the disparities racially within the constructs of the current structure. And we are looking to implement a maternal mental health program with an advisory panel that's going to continue to build on that data. Data tells us what the realities are. And although we didn't explicitly state racism, women of color, et cetera, in the law, and you can pull up the law. Ebony showed in the beginning the links to the legislation. It's going to give us that information. And we are trying to balance that. If we had a Democratic House and a Democratic Senate with a Democratic president, where we are centered on they center their policies on social determinants and equity, it would be much different. We are not in that space, and we want to make sure that we have success in getting programs that are going to uplift our communities. I hope that doesn't sound too harsh, but that it's more understanding in the approach. But I know that through the rubric that we ran our language through, that we will get the inequity information and the racial information that we're looking for. And that's it. It's just a one-pager. So I hope that this is helpful, and I'm more than happy to share it if it's not up on our website.
No, thank you. I actually pulled it and put it in the chat, and I went ahead and added it to the slides as well. So when we refresh our slides, there's a link to that as well as the GAO report. So we put both of them in there. Open it up for anyone that has any questions or reflections, and then we can move on to our next question about the fiscal note piece.
The fiscal note, I mean, it's $5 million. And I will say this, okay, another reality of this, and this is, I have to chuckle because, you're constantly playing a dance. How do you don't ever want to pass legislation that's great on paper, but has no bite, like we could all write legislation that people firmly believe in and it gets passed. But if it doesn't have the money behind it, it doesn't do anything except for sit in the public laws and do nothing and eventually sunset, right? So our tack right now is getting the support through the National Defense Authorization Act as well. So this would cut, because it's military, it can be its own vehicle, which we're looking at 70 with HR 7087 and S 3641. And at the same time, we're also saying to the House Armed Services and Senate Armed Services, guys, you've already done a doula pilot program. That seems to be going well. You're seeing that women and Black women are the highest amount of population that are enlisting right now. You see that there's a need for support. This is an issue around readiness. And when they hear that, you know, you got to know your audience, you have to speak to your audience. They're more inclined to want to support programs like this because they know that the need is there. And mental health is such a focus on the military as well. And this is part of that. So we're also gearing this policy towards the ears of those individuals on the committee. And literally, when it comes to money and our defense budget in this country, we know where the money goes, and it generally goes way more to defense than it's going to go to social programs.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. Heather, do you have any follow-up question to that? Since you were the one who asked in the chat specifically about the fiscal piece.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right, well, we have 3 minutes remaining. Does anyone else have a question you'd like to bring forward either in chat or live? You're welcome to come off mute and ask any questions you may have.
Hello, this is Danielle. Thank you all for this wonderful time together. Really quick question. I am looking at the link for the bill, and I don't know how I missed this part. How do I see if any of my representatives are from Oklahoma for that?
Sure, absolutely. Ebony, do you mind navigating back to that notes slide and we can talk through that just one more time? So yeah, so when you click on the link there, so you'll see the original sponsors there at the top, where you see Rep Chrissy Houlihan, and then you navigate down to the bottom and the tab there says co-sponsors, and right there, there's a list right down here. I think there's 3 people there. So those 3 names, so Don Bacon, Brad Finstead, and Stephen Hosford, those are the 3 people who are currently signed on. There's very rarely, but there could be a chance that your rep has already signed on, but they haven't published it on congress.gov yet. Sometimes they're waiting for a bipartisan pair to sign on. It just depends on how the office is operating. So sometimes they'll say, oh, yes, we have your person. We're waiting for a Democratic counterpart to join us as well, and put them both on at the same time. But for the most part, this is going to tell you exactly where they are. And you can see over here on the left too that it lists co-sponsors by state or territory, and you can also filter down by party as well. So there's different ways to toggle through the information there. Does that answer what you're looking for, Danielle?
Yes, thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks for being here. All right. Does anyone else have a question? I'm going to quickly drop a link to the wait list. We are finishing sending out our waitlist responses today. So if you are interested in joining us in DC and have not received an invitation, here is a link to the waitlist here in chat. As a reminder, we're going on May 15th. It's one day this year. So we'll start with the congressional briefing, breakfast from 8 a.m., the briefing from 8:30 to 10, and then we'll go for our advocacy meeting. So we look forward to seeing those of you that are going to be able to join us. And I think the next slide is just, if you are coming to Hill Day, this is the meeting log confirmation. And so I will drop that in chat as well. Again, you don't have to have all your meetings confirmed, but as they roll in, just fill it out one at a time to let us know. That way Justine doesn't have to chase you down and ask about, do you need help with your meeting? And then the next slide is just a reminder for everyone that anyone can nominate legislation for the mom's agenda at any time. A simple way to bring that forward is through our nomination form, which I also just put in the chat there. That is published on the website. So if you navigate to the mom's agenda, you can find there at the bottom of the page where you can nominate legislation. That can be done by members or anybody else. So if it fits our criteria, aligns with one of our policy pillars, and definitely if it's been brought forward by one of our members, it's going to be considered. And as you can see, that when a piece of legislation fits what we're looking for, we elevate it and find you the best expert to train on it. So please bring forward any federal legislation you would like to nominate. And that concludes our programming for today. I think our last slide is just contact information. I think you all know where to find Ebony and myself. If you don't, there's our emails, but you know you're welcome to text or call as well. I look forward to seeing a lot of you. I'll go ahead and get the recording stopped, and I'm happy to stay on for a couple minutes if anyone has questions. Thank you so much, Jamie.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me here. And I don't have my email on here, but obviously if anyone has any questions for me too, you know where to find me. And And the best thing we can do is continue to use our voice. I am sure that there's going to be a lot of voices, so let's go for it. All right. And anything I can do to help, have a very successful Mom Congress. And thanks for having me.
Thank you for being here, Jimmy, and thanks for sticking with it. We're all in it together for sure. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. You're awesome. Bye.